On today's episode of the Beyond Kicks podcast, we'll be kicking it with the collab marketing genius himself, Bimma Williams.
From collaborating with brands such as Converse, Clarks, and Saucony, and even working at brands such as Saucony, Adidas, and Nike, his resume runs deep, so we're very excited to sit down with him and see what makes him tick.
So sit back, relax, and enjoy this special episode of the Beyond Kicks podcast. Oh, dude, I got to call you out from last week. Straight away. The fear of gods. You were out there. You were stunting in them, too. You were stunting in them. And I listened to last week's podcast, and you said you were not a fan. And then I feel like maybe those times have changed. I don't know. I'm curious.
Times have changed. I got them in hand. That's what changed. And that's...
yeah.
I mean, thank you for calling me out. I appreciate that.
I had to.
I did reference in the video. It's not necessarily my style. I had to kind of get creative with my outfit, go to the Wolves game. They're interesting shoes, but the materials, packaging, very fear of God. I don't think I've ever owned any fear of God shoes just because the retail price is so super high always. But I mean, you have a pair. What do you think about them?
I was surprised. So, funny thing about it, I was at Overtime Elite, their stadium, on whatever the day before everyone started getting their pairs in was. Just getting some behind the scenes footage for this collection that they have coming out in the next few weeks. I can't talk about it or anything, but there was another influencer there who had on a pair. And this is before we knew that they were coming out this month. So
yeah, it was kind of a quick
that
showed up.
I saw that he had a pair on, and I was like, yo, how did you already get those? That's crazy. And he was like, oh, well, like I have connections at Adidas. This guy, Miles, sent him over. And I was like, Miles sent him over? What? Well, that's not fair. So I was like, that's crazy. I know Miles too. I'm going to shoot him a text right now. And I shot him a text about it, and he was like, oh, don't worry, you're on the list. Yours should be there probably tomorrow. And I was like, yo, what? I was not expecting that. So they came in. I was blown away, like you said, by the quality. The fit was great. I have no complaints with them other than the fact, like, they're kind of out there looking. Like you said, it's not like a typical style that I would wear, but they're easy to wear, man, and the shape is just spot on. Like, they look so cool.
Yeah, they're not bad. I don't know how much I'll be wearing them. I'll be 100% honest. Did you get the second pair by chance?
No, that one I didn't. I'm assuming just because I already have the black pair or whatever colorway that is, so it makes sense. But there's some other models that I'm excited for. That pair is not coming out till March 8th, so they just got that pair right there. They're sitting there. So, yeah, I mean, I'm fear of God. I mean, Adidas has just been killing it. I know you also did the Harden review today. What are your thoughts on those? They are super stylish, dude. Like, they are flashy. I think you got the same packaging, right? Like the special box, whatever that was. I wasn't expecting them. I mean, you saw it was literally just a live reaction of what I saw. Packaging was crazy. All the goodies, that came inside of it for the special box, crazy. It's definitely an improvement from the Volume 8. And dude, I'm just excited to see different colorways. It's another one of those that I'm like, casually, I could definitely put an outfit together.
You'll never wear them.
It's one of those things. If I'm at an Adidas event, I would put these on. But if I wasn't, I doubt it, But they're cool.
I really like them. I've been a huge fan of the 8s. And I know that in terms of performance on the court, there's a lot of people that wore the 8s. The 9s, I think, look 10 times better. I feel like they finally just finished the design on them. So that cyan blue colorway, I got to get those. But shout out to Adidas and Miles. I mean, the packaging is super cool. I was not expecting that. I mean, that stuff when that shows up,
it was cool. And I mean, they still have the same design language of like the AE1s too. I mean, they were still co-designed by Andrew Parks, who did the AE1. So it all makes sense, but it's a cool shoe.
Adidas basketball is all kind of one and the same.
I like it. But Did you get any other cool shoes in that you haven't
I did. Remember last week I was saying that this week would be probably a pretty crazy pickup week?
Yeah.
It indeed was.
Okay.
I have a mound of shoes next to me. So first of all, I got some little baby shoes from the 90s.
Oh.
The original release.
Oh, dude, those are cool though.
Kid shoes.
That's crazy.
Yep. So pretty hyped about that. Pretty cool little pair there.
Little baby 12s. I like
Yep. And then my guy also had a couple other random things for sale. So this is an original waffle sole that never got made into a waffle trainer from the 70s with the US patent number. Wow. I don't know what I'll do with them, but
you could shadow box.
Maybe there'll be a little coaster. I'll put it on my desk, and that could be where I could put my coffee or something. So
yeah, that's you could frame
pretty cool in there. And then this is kind of a grail. This is an original 70s trainer with the original tag, talking about all the models and what each model is for. This is the first pair of cleats Nike ever made.
Wow.
So they did make the waffle runners, the Oregon runners, and this is brand new dead stock with the box. Very cool pair. So this is the first pair of spike cleats that they ever made. So
that's incredible.
Something for the archive for me. I got to figure out how to display them, but $22, $22.95 is the price on there. So
wow.
Pretty cool. That's not what I paid, I wish.
Yeah. What a cool find. Where did you, just from a seller on Instagram?
That I buy all the sample stuff from. So
that's cool.
Fear of Gods, we just were talking about those. These finally came in. I totally forgot about these. The Poly. Air Max 1s, the Kai Cenat collab. They're cool. I mean, it's basically just a regular Air Max. There's nothing really special about it.
I didn't know you ordered those. I forgot about that.
I forgot about it too. I know it was like some EA access, and I was like, "Oh, I'll get it, and I'll forget about it, and they'll come in, and I'll be excited." So
that's true.
And then I got a bunch of samples for the collection. I showed these off on my close friend's story. Original writing, not for resale, stamped. So I got 3 of the 4. And then the coolest one of all, which if anyone's on the hunt for a 10.5 dead stock of these, hit me up because I don't think I'm going to keep them. A pair of the Hidden NY, basically F&F pairs, the JW Customs of the ASICs. So the GT 2160, it's got the side stamp, custom, little hidden on the tongue.
Oh, those are so cool.
Yeah, it's very cool. It's 10.5 DS. I don't think I'll ever wear them in current markets. Like,
it's hard, dude.
Minimum 1,500 based on prices, and there's 30 pairs in the world. So
the cool one to have.
I think I'm gonna trade them. So if somebody has something cool to trade in the same size, hit me up.
I like that. I like that a lot.
That's about it for me.
It was a good week.
Yeah.
Let's see what I got in. Talked about it a little bit last week. I ordered the APTHCRY, I think is the name of the shoe. His little lifestyle model. That's $100. Dude, the quality on the leather, the midsole, blown away.
I never even ended up ordering a pair. I got to do that right now. Hopefully they still have them in stock.
You should. So the back heel, how it says Anta, like this, it just looks crazy. I'm excited to try them out, do a full review on these because it's just for $100. You can't beat it. These I think you might like, courtesy of the Sneaker Knockers family, the white cement 4s, size 10. I'm not like super impressed by them. I don't know if it's just, I mean, it's that thick plasticky leather all across
it's like 2016s.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's nothing special, but it's still cool to see. I mean, Nike Air on the heel, everything looks good. So put a quick review together. He was just in town the other day and he's like, gave me a list of a few shoes and he was like, do you want to review any of these? And I said, yeah, I'll do these. But that was the only one.
That's sick.
Yeah. Figured you would like that. My Jowns finally came in, the 993s. Obsessed with these. It's just one of those shoes that's like just made for me. super basic brown colorway on a 993. I just think they're sick. Another pair that's arriving today that I wasn't expecting to get. So I don't know if you follow Nord Balance. He does a ton of just like New Balance posts. He sent me a DM saying that there was this shop in Chicago that was selling the Joe Freshgood 992s for like $20 over retail. They only had size 9 through 10 on their website. So he was like, I'm assuming someone got a hold of just, you know, some backdoored pairs or something, but now they're selling them on their website. He's like, if you want a pair, I'd probably get them from them just because Joe Freshgood releases are super difficult to get. So I last minute, just spur of the moment, purchased a pair of those in a size 9 for whatever $20 over retail was, which was already expensive for what the shoe was. So those show up today and I'm excited to check them out, but I did not want to spend the money on them. I'll tell you that. But they're cool.
Well, that's sweet. That's a fun one.
Yeah. So looking forward to that. I think there's another package arriving today too that I can't really talk about, but it's super.
It's right now. I'm curious.
It's super. Yeah, it's for this event that is happening in Atlanta that they're only inviting 15 creators to.
What?
And it's at a store.
Names do exist. I will come, whoever this is.
Yeah, if I just wish. I wish you were in town. Yep, your face says it all. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, they asked me for my size and everything, and they were like,
that's through the store or a store that's released.
One of the few. So
okay. I actually had I'll text you back.
Okay. I love this sub texting through the podcast. Yeah. Everyone you'll know it next week, probably. Ton of fun stuff in the works. We'll see what actually comes from any of it. But do you want to just, I guess we can breeze through a little bit of sneaker news before Beima gets here. He should be here in the next 10 minutes or so. So
yeah, first one I want to talk about is a pair that I actually picked up this morning, the new pair Air Pegasus or the Nike Pegasus Premium Airscapes.
You did? Oh,
I did. Yeah, there was only 2,200 pairs listed on Nike as a member-only product, so you even had to be a member or just a Nike account. Very limited premium products. Retails $210.
Yeah.
It was a drawing system basically, so it was kind of random. But I ended up snagging a pair, and I'm very excited because I've been eyeing these up for a while.
Yeah.
And I saw Matt, the Nice Kicks founder, made a video about these today. Talking about how it's a big step. So I'm very excited to check them out. Mm-hmm. I know I also talked about on the podcast that we've been on our diet gym grind.
Mm-hmm.
So we've been walking every day. We're down 10 pounds, which is, I don't know. It seems like not real, but we're making progress. So the wife and we're locked in. So
still, that's awesome, dude. I didn't know it was that limited, at least for the Nike release, but yeah, I saw Matt actually made a video like a few months back because I guess Nike seeded him a pair to try out. His initial review was like, yeah, these are fire, super comfortable. Don't know if they're good for like training, you know, like high intensity just because the 3 different foams on the midsole. But yeah, they look cool. I'm probably just going to wait until they release another colorway. I don't know what colorway. I
like orange and white. It's just clean for me. I don't know.
I do too. It's just because I did the same thing with the most recent Pegasus, and I got the Volt pair because that was like the first colorway, the most loud. And now that I have them, I wear them almost every single day. But I'm like, I wish I would have got.
This is the black bright crimson.
Oh, that's not too bad. That's not too bad.
It's not as cool.
Yeah, but ever since I got that one, they release other colorways that I'm like, I wish I would have waited because I don't need 2 pairs of these. But we'll see. Looking for something cream. That's about it. I'll scoop it, but for 200, steep, but a cool shoe.
Yeah, it's definitely steep, but I'm excited to check them out.
Yeah.
The Foamposites, the Galaxies returning in February.
That's hype.
Look at that.
I feel like a lot of people are excited for these, but I'm really curious to see how they perform because I'm not really familiar with the Foamposite market right now. I know they've been dropping,
these will do good. I've kept eyes on the market. Some of the ones that are limited and hyped, like the CDGs, are selling for like 800 to 1,000 for those pairs. Very hard to get. This one will be, I think this will be a big one.
I like them.
Retail's always high on these at like 250-ish. 240. But yeah, this is one those are gonna do good. I'm excited for those.
Gas, dude. Such a cool pair. Iconic.
The new this year's Air Max DN, the DN 8. It's kind of shown off at Fashion Week too. We didn't cover that, but these are not very good. I don't like these. I mean, the DNs kind of grew on me once I saw the gray color. It was all gray. It was clean. Like, these just not. I don't know. This is a tough launch colorway.
For some reason, I see this and I immediately think of like the Yeezy 450, whatever that shoe is, that had the sort of claws that wrapped up around the upper. But I think it's cool. I love the upper more than the midsole. That's for sure.
Got the bands, the breads, ton of marketing around those.
They've been going
the band, Nike violations at the store. Let's see.
Yeah, I thought that was wild. Oh, dude, looking at those loafers reminded me the other day, I got a random notification from Kith that they, just had like new styles in stock. So I went to the app, saw they had 2 pairs of I can't think of the name of it, but the New Balance loafer, the like navy and green one and the silver. They had one in my size and one in half a size up. So I was like, oh my God, perfect. Bought them. A day later, they were like, yeah, we don't have these in stock. I was like,
well, that's a bummer.
It keeps happening to me, dude. It was those. It was the 991 V2s. I'm like, I can't win. So I guess I'll wait for another colorway.
The Realtree 3s, Jordan 3s.
Gross.
Kind of an interesting one.
With some baggies, like, I don't think they look bad. Didn't they do a Realtree airship? Those I thought looked really good, or at least it was just a camo airship last year, and I really liked them. These are cool. The PE AE1s.
Kansas.
Yeah.
Month hunt.
Tough.
This is the next. This will take a while for somebody to sell a pair of these. It's tough now because the PEs. It's like these guys got money in college with the NIL, so there's no reason to sell the pairs.
Yeah, it's hard, but I'm sure
the Wizard of Oz, Friends and Family Ruby slippers was kind of a fun thing that happened.
Yeah, those were better than the original. If the original looked like this, I would have got them, hands down. Because Anna wanted a pair. When I told her they were doing a Wizard of Oz SB collab, she was like, "Oh, give me a pair."
They should have not made this a Friends and Family and just made it a blind box. Like you open it, you either get this one or the other one.
But like the other one to me was just a little, I don't know.
It was cool. It's just not as cool as these.
Yeah, this is what I was expecting originally, I guess.
Yeah, that's about it. Let's should we kick it to the interview?
Let's do it. Okay, so we got to stop for a second and talk about one of our sponsors, APTHCRY.
If you're looking for the best socks to pair with your favorite sneakers, then APTHCRY has you covered.
From elevated basics to unique and fashionable designs, they really have something for everyone.
On top of that, they also have a great collection of apparel and accessories, some of which we're rocking all the time.
Like the brand new Patchwork collection, which we have right here.
Featuring a section off design aesthetic with a clean and simple design. And it's funny because this is the only one I have left that's not out of the packaging because I've already tossed them on foot.
On top of that, they also just released their performance socks, which this is the only one that I haven't worn yet. I have been dailying these in the gym. They're solid, dude. I'm going to need every single colorway they drop of these.
Yeah, I'm not even going to lie. The side stitching, everything that's extra padded. I mean, these are definitely a performance sock. Very impressive.
We only rock APTHCRY, and you should too.
So check out APTHCRY on their social channels or go to apthcry.com. And now let's get to the interview. Beima describes himself as an independent collab marketing educator. Hypebeast calls him the voice of collabs, and his most popular series, the Collab Lab, has him discussing the latest sneaker and streetwear space ideas where he voices his thoughts. We're very excited to have you on the podcast here. And I have a list of questions. We'll get to those. Let's just keep chatting, man.
Well, thank you for having me. Also, it was great like tapping in person at the infamous Complex Con.
Yes.
And yeah, man, I'm appreciative to be able to be on y'all's platform and get to hang out with my fellow creators.
Dude, 100% the infamous Complex Con. That's hilarious. Dude, to bring that up, but not to bring it up and actually dive into it, I felt horrible because the last time I reached out to you to do the podcast with us was the day that everything with Complex Con went down. And I'm chronically not online, so I had no idea. I just shot you a DM and I was like, yo, Beima, you want to come on the podcast this week? And you were like, well, there's a lot going on right now, so I think I'm going to focus on that, but I'll do it soon. And I was like, okay, I guess he's busy. Then I go to my Explore feed, and that's the first thing I see is you. And I'm like, oh, he thinks, now I look like I'm just trying to milk it.
No, I didn't think that. You know, and a lot of times when people reach out, I'm like, what's so dope about it is I'm like, I was thinking about reaching out too, you know? And so it's like, I never like, sometimes people, I think because of like how I present or how like I'll like exaggerate things when I'm presenting sometimes, I think people have an assumption that I think like, oh man, you was just trying to do such and such. A lot of times I don't think anything about anything. I just receive it as it comes. And then I'm just like, okay, then I'll think something about it, you know, but I don't spend a lot of time like thinking about intentions, like of like why someone said something. You know what I mean? I don't know if anybody has time to do that. Like y'all, like we're always doing something. I'm like, I wouldn't get anything done.
Oh, dude, it's on.
No, so I didn't take anything. I didn't take anything negatively from that. But the block was hot.
And it went on, dude. It went on for like, I feel like longer than it should have, but it was one of those things that just kept going. And I was like, all right, well.
It kept going. Like it just was so many. It went from like blogs to creators to then like the creators that are like trying to learn their voice. So then they picked it up and I'm like, this is never ending.
When the creators started picking it up, that's when I was like, oh, so this is like, everyone's getting involved with this. That's crazy. Not to derail the conversation too much or get ahead of ourselves, is that sort of what inspired you to do your collab of the year deal at the end of the year?
So I had always planned since, I'll tell you when I decided I was going to do collab of the year, end of year, I was going to do that after what happened when I put out my power collaborators list in like June, July last year.
Yeah.
And so basically like, again, like I'm very much when it comes to like content, and I think y'all are the same, I'm in the moment, right? When it comes to those types of things. And so like when that moment happened, Complex put out their list and I didn't really think twice about it. And I kind of joked and I was like, I wrote a comment and I was just like, I'll see y'all on Monday. I got something to say. And then like just a bunch of people were like, oh, are you about to put together a list for the power collaborators list? And I was like, you know, again, I'm not thinking anything of it, but I'm like, yeah, I'm putting together a list. And so I put this video out and I'm just like, you know, I'm like, it's super in my brain. It's super satire. I'm just like, I can't believe you did this. I can't believe you put Undefeated on there, you know, all this like crazy stuff. And it got 4,000 comments.
I was watching that. I was watching the kickback and the engagement on it because I was just like, man, the community is like eating this up.
And it was like, I don't sit here and pick through the tension point of certain conversations. I don't go on Twitter. So there's certain stuff I don't see on Twitter, sorry. Like there's certain conversations I don't see over there. And so I didn't know about this tension, right? So I'm like poking at something, but I don't realize there's a tension there. And so when I saw 4,000 comments, I was like, oh, like people are actually open to hearing from other people these different lists. And so I was like, when I did that, I was like, okay, so surely by end of the year, multiple people are putting out lists. Multiple people are putting out lists because I think that's what it should be, right? It's like, it's your preference. It's not a governing body of like, this is the list of the industry. It's like, it's all subjective, y'all. Like, it's all about our different preferences, what we like, what we look at sneakers for. And so I was like, well, I've been talking about collabs all year. I'm like, it'd be dope if I put together a list because, some folks are like, well, we don't know what you like. And so I was like, okay, I'll drop my list. And it was originally just supposed to be like a document. But then, my brain went a little crazy and I just
you parlayed it into that launch very well. And the rollout, the website, everything. I mean, it was very well executed. So props to you on that.
The rollout, though, you did exactly what I was hoping you would do. You dropped a fire ass first video. And I was like, oh man, I really hope he's got like some other videos banked up until this day. And you delivered, bro. It was so cool to see. And like everyone was so hyped about it too.
Man, I appreciate it. I just, for me, I'm just like, I'm really passionate about the space, and I'm really passionate about, for now the seat that I sit in, right? We sit in the seat of content. And I think we have an opportunity, just as we want to see better sneakers and better things from the brands. I'm like, well, we as content creators, we can push as well as far as like how we deliver, how we elevate the space. And when it came to that, there was stuff I wanted to try, I just really wanted to try some stuff. And then I just was really inspired by some of those campaigns. So when there was like, when I found the idea that I was going to reinterpret these ads to promote Collab of the Year, I just had so much fun. And people were starting to submit ideas to me after they realized what I was doing. I was like, look, I'm out of the studio. This is baked. But like, it opened the door for like, this year and like to try different stuff. But like, I'm like, okay, so if I did this, I'm like, okay, so the other homies, y'all, Harrison and Sneaker Fetish and some of the other cats, I'm like, okay, cats gonna start, trying stuff. So for me, it's just like, how can I like inspire not only myself but also my peers, and also show the collaborators, like, because sometimes I know, they see like comments online and they're just like, oh, here's another like talking head. And I just want folks to know, like, a lot of us really study and we really like appreciate the work that they do. And we're not just coming from, a place of hot takes. I have my share of hot takes. I can be accountable.
You do.
But yeah, it was fun.
What was the most fun you had as far as like shooting I don't know if I want to call them a skit. I mean, that's fine. Videos. Totally, what was the most fun you had with shooting those? Because you were feeling yourself on the Tyler one. I saw that.
I think that the Tyler one was the funnest, just purely when I hit up my homie Bo, who ended up there's Bo and another designer ended up. I'm always hesitant to say names because I'm like, I don't know if people, because these folks work at certain companies and I don't want to do that. But they're 3D printers, and I was like, how can we make this mask? Like, how do we get this Tyler mask? And they were like, are there files online? Because initially I was like, let's go through Etsy, and like somebody had a mask, but they couldn't get it to us in time. And then they were like, well, what about the files? Do they have the files? We 3D print. We can 3D print this. And so Bo ended up 3D printing this mask, and the day he brought it to me, they printed it purple. So like the original version of that mask is like almost purple like my hat. Mm-hmm. And so we were goofing around at my wife's ice cream shop is where I met him, and we like had the mask on. And then immediately I'm like, I start laughing. If there's something that I immediately just start laughing at, I know it's something that I just like, I gotta go on. Like I just gotta follow through with it. And when we painted it like my skin tone, and like I put it under the hat and I put the suit on, like it was so hard to like get through the scene, because like the dances, like first off, like the dances are like, paying homage to like some of the places that I live. So like I'm from Louisiana, Baton Rouge, just outside of New Orleans, and like there's dance moves like the beanie weenie that I learned in New Orleans, and then there's stuff like the South Side that I learned in Texas. And so I'm like, I'm doing some of this stuff, but I'm also trying not to be ultra serious about it. Cause I'm like, I'm not like a great dancer and I'm not trying to convince you of that either. And then like the director is like telling me like to turn and stuff like that. So like, it was just like an hilarious trying to shoot that. But then watching it back was the funniest thing. Cause I'm like, this looks absurd. This is so absurd.
I love it, dude.
It was crazy. But I just had fun doing something that was again, like I said, at the desk, and so being able to, we painted a whole psych purple, and then being able to transform that into these different scenes was just so much fun.
Yeah, break out creatively. It's always freeing to do that.
Yeah, we a lot of times we talk, and don't get me wrong, like that's like we have to be creative in how we deliver information in order for people to watch it. But it is the same thing every day.
Yeah, fair enough. I want to take it back just a little bit. Just to kind of your roots, you were kind of hitting on where you grew up. And I'm just curious, how'd you get into the space? How'd you get to the desk you're at now? How'd you get to the purple hat? Like, what's the origin story? It doesn't have to be super long, but
yeah, no, I'll try to give you like the highlight pieces, not to like belabor the point, but just like everybody, I had my inspiration story about how and why I got into sneakers. I was inspired by my cousin. She played basketball. She was a couple years older than me, and she was always hooping in J's, or she was hooping in Swoosh and different brands. But it was her that first brought home a pair of Jordan 9s, and like I remember that Christmas, I was like, I was still in like third grade, had to have them. So that's when Jordan 9s only had the button on the back. The kids pair didn't have the details, like they had 0 details, so it looked like literally a button from a snapback. And so, but I'd say when it really started to expand outside of that was when like she like really like started to ball, and she like started to talk to me about Allen Iverson. And so I started paying attention to like Questions and Reebok and all this stuff. And so that was the bug, man. And so then by the time we get to high school, I'm camping out at the mall, because that, it's Louisiana. We didn't have shops. There's no online, there's no resale, there's none of these things. None of this stuff exists. And so I was just camping in lines for what I could get at Foot Action when it existed. No longer exists.
I used to work at Foot Action. I miss it.
I miss Foot Action. Yo, Foot Action was like distinctly a vibe. Foot Locker was I'm not throwing no shade at Foot Locker, but Foot Action was a vibe. I remember, man. I remember trying to get some 13s. It just was like, I man, there's just so many stories. I gotta concentrate, but so it started there, and I always realized that I wanted to be in the industry, but I didn't know how to do that. My parents worked at chemical plants, so they were the furthest thing from creatives, and I couldn't really pinpoint what I wanted to do, like from that standpoint. Today we call it marketing and advertising, but I didn't have that language. This is I'm not trying to. I'm 38, so I'm okay with that, but like, it was just a time where we didn't have a lot of the things that are quote unquote normal now. And so I spent a lot of time, like I worked in run specialty. So like I'm a runner. A lot of people don't know that. I run a half marathon every year with my family. 2 years ago, I did a marathon, so that's my thing. So I'm in every running shoe that comes out. I know a lot about, I never talk about them. But I used to work at an independent running store, by this woman named Jenny Peters, she was one of the first women to compete in the marathon Olympic trials. I think it was like 86, so this is, she's got like 3 shops now. But then I also worked at a sneaker boutique my senior year of college. It's called Pivot Foot, and it was Pivot Foot, and y'all might know Sneaker Politics. Sneaker Politics and Pivot Foot started at the same time. I ended up working at Pivot Foot. It made it about 2 years, I think. But beyond that, I didn't know how to get in this industry. I didn't know that, Nike was in Oregon. I didn't know that New Balance and Saucony and everybody else was in Boston. But I'd started this blog 2011. It was about running, run culture, run community. And it was at a time where brands didn't know what to do on social media as far as like how they'd show up. They were literally taking like billboard photos and moving them to social, and they were wondering why no one was like engaging with them.
Yeah.
And I was 24, man. I was just going with the energy. And so I had built up this community with some friends, and we would just kind of run community. So we do some stories, we do some memes, we do some merch, we do some pop-up running clubs. So like everybody's talking about the running movement stuff right now. Like that was my running crew in like 2011. We was already doing that. And so because of the internet, like Instagram and Twitter, I started to get attention for brands. Like brands were like just reaching out. Brooks was reaching out, Saucony's reaching out, New Balance, Nike, Adidas. And that's really how I started to build the relationships. And it was Saucony. The CMO of Saucony ended up recruiting me. And the story about that is hilarious. I went to this thing called the running event in Austin, Texas. And this is my first time ever going to the release of a sneaker, right? And like they spend like, these brands spend millions, right, to launch a sneaker. And like there's installations, it's free alcohol. I'm 24, I don't know how to act. There's like all these people here, there's music and stuff. And so we go, and I think he had commented on something like a blog post. So this is right. Like, this is like when people were commenting on blog posts. Like now no one's going to a website. And I didn't know what he looked like, but he came up to me. His name's Chris Lindner. He's been a mentor of mine since he's the president of FootJoy now. But he came up to me on the dance floor and he was like, yeah, we want you to move to Boston. I'm in Louisiana. I've traveled. I've been in New York. I've been to California at this time, but I've never lived anywhere else. And I'm an only child. And he's like, we want you to move to Boston and we want you to head up our social media. And I laughed him off the dance floor and I went the other way. This is a legit story. He'll tell you this 1-to-1. And because think about this, y'all. I'm from the South. Who's coming up to me and telling me they're giving me a job in Boston to head up social media for a sneaker brand? Nobody. So so I see him the next day at the expo. He was dead serious. He was like, "Nah, I was serious about this." And then the next week, I hear from his assistant. Interview process happens, and by May 2023. We moved to Boston. My girlfriend, now wife, be 10 years in April, and we moved to Boston, and that's how I got in the game, right? And so I got in the game. I just was very curious, and I tried everything, man. I tried every form of marketing under the sun of this brand at Saucony because it's a smaller brand. There were no like boundaries in that regard. But what I really fell in love with was the collabs while I was there. And there was only one other guy that was working on it. It was this guy named Mike Hughes. And, Mike was like 50 and like he had a passion for it, but he was also like, he's like, bro, like I'm 50. Like I'm not about to be running around here trying to chase after, these boutiques. Cause at the time we were working with a lot of sneaker boutiques to do these collabs. Like this was, 15, 16 where boutiques were running it because Swoosh had pulled out a neighborhood. They did D2C, which is what got them in trouble again. And Adidas hadn't signed Yeezy yet. And Rihanna hadn't signed Puma yet. And Drake hadn't signed the Jordan brand yet. And so sneaker boutiques were running collabs. Yeah. And he's the one who taught me how to do all of that stuff. And, I ended up running our global business. I picked up stuff pretty fast. So I ended up running a global business. By the time I left, it was like 50 million. I was 30 running a $50 million global business. I went to Adidas in 2017 to join the Yeezy team. I was like, when you're young, y'all, and I'm not trying to come up here preaching holier than thou stuff, but I was like, I need a bigger challenge. I need, blah, 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 blah. I need stuff that people recognize on the streets. Like, you say a bunch of stuff when you don't know a lot. And so I go to Yeezy and I definitely got a lot of what I asked for and a lot of what I didn't ask for. But I was there for 2 years. I met incredible people. It was an incredible ride. We built $1.5 billion cash business. So a lot of times, people talk about sneakers and they say, Hoka's valued at, $2 billion and, Hey Dude's valued at $2 billion. I'm like, no, we did cash. Like there are drops that we did. There were like million pair drops of 350 V2s. Like this is real, real cash. And then I spent a little time in Swoosh after that in 2019. I went to work on entertainment marketing. And so that was dope. I went to Astroworld 2019, Travis and the team. I got to go to Fashion Week in February 2020. That was the last trip because that's when COVID happened.
Man.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the ride, man. And after that, I just went independent.
That's awesome. That's a great insight, because I've always kind of wondered your story getting into it.
Yeah. It's crazy, man. I mean, there's obviously like if there's like specific stuff you want to know, I could tell you, but like it's just been it's crazy to think that I've been at 3 different sneaker brands and been able to see like some really like be part of like some really crazy like sneakers. Like I like 18-year-old me is like, this is dope.
Oh man, I'm pretty sure I could ask 100 questions from each one of those points too. So what are you doing now? I know you talked about Skull Candy.
Yeah,
I would love to talk about that because I feel like they're a brand that I was super into because I grew up skateboarding, and for some reason they just stayed in my ears the best when I was out riding around. Oh, dude.
These things, this is the Crusher. Like if I hadn't gotten these to both of y'all, I need to get you a pair. These things sound like my high school truck where I had like 2 12s in the back.
Every single day when I get to my like typical low point around like 1 or 2 where I'm like, I could use a nap, I put these on and I bump whatever I'm feeling at the moment and I re-energized instantly. Like they're so fun.
It's so good. It's crazy. But no, so when I left Swoosh, I was entering into like my career as a content creator. And so essentially what had happened was that year before, when I was leaving Adidas and going to Swoosh, I had what they call a non-compete period, which is because I was working on Yeezy and like I touched a bunch of stuff. I just brought in Donald Glover to Adidas and that project was in flight. So I had a bunch of information and they were like, nope, can't go. You got to sit out. And so I'm in the middle of the deal with Nike and they say, we'll wait. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? They're like, we'll wait. And so I was like, wait, so you're going to wait a year? And they're like, yeah. And then Adidas was like, and we're going to pay you a full salary. And I was like, for a year? I just keep asking because, bro, I've never had to not work for money. So I'm just like, what are you talking about? And so for like the year, I just had time, the first time in my life, to like truly be a creative that was thinking about ideas that weren't necessarily connected to a financial output, which is like the dream, right? Like to be able to just do something purely from a place of passion and interest versus trying to like turn it into some money is like, that shit is a luxury. And so in that time, I hit up a bunch of my contacts and I traveled a little bit. I hit up, I went to Complex. I saw Brendan. Brendan and I have been colleagues since like 2013, since my Saucony days. And so I saw a bunch of people. And what I realized in our space was like, at that time, 2019, there weren't many sneaker podcasts that were talking to people that worked at the brands. Like no one was talking to like the people that like were part of these projects that were like making these projects real. And so a lot of these people I would just see them every day because I'm in Portland. I would see them when I go get groceries. I would see them when we went out, to watch, whatever football game on Saturday and Sunday. And I just kind of at the time was also listening to How I Built This and some of these other podcasts. And I was like, what if we did this for sneakers? And I did that, man. And so I didn't realize how fast it would grow. And a lot of the reason why I grew was, one, it was information that for whatever reason, HR wasn't allowing a lot of people. I mean, y'all, I don't know how much y'all have heard, but like not HR, comms teams at brands are very strict about letting employees speak outside of the brand, even if it's just about their career, even if it's literally about context to information that's on LinkedIn. They're very like, don't do it. And so I remember just having a couple homies and I was like, yo, Frank Cook was the first person that was like, I'm going to sit down and I'll do the interview with you. And Frank is known for all these incredible projects that he's done at Jordan Brand, and like really bringing them to life, from, Satin Ones, the work he did with a Laylee, the work he's done with Nigel. So is Travis, like so many people, Virgil, he's worked with so many people. And so I got to sit there and speak with Frank, and I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know how to interview anybody. I didn't know what I was doing. But it was the words that Frank and the stories that Frank that was delivering that mattered. And so, I mean, I think the first show had 1,000 listens, no audience. I had no audience. And, this is an audio show. And after that, it just started to go. And it started to get picked up by different websites. So Soul Collector had picked it up. At some point, Footwear News picked us up. And by season 2, Apple featured us, and we became the number one. They bucketed it as like society and culture. It became the number one podcast globally in that launch window. And so I think we held the position for I think it was like 10 days. And I was like, so at least it's longer than a rap album debut.
There you go.
And because I worked in partnerships, then I was like, oh, I wonder if we can get a little bit of cash to pay for some stuff. And so I started with Portland State University. They cut us a check for $4K, pay for equipment, pay for office space to record, before we were smart enough to be like, we should have just done this digitally. But whatever, live and you learn. And then Converse came to the table. And the Converse story was so crazy because we had gone down to the wire negotiating something for 4 months with another company. And at the very last minute, we're like, okay, let's draft. We work through the scope of work. Let's draft the contract. And they just dipped. They were just like, yo, we're not doing the deal. And Converse came out of nowhere, and they were like, we love what you do. We want you to help us with this thing we're doing with young creatives, and we're going to write you a check to sponsor your show. And when they told me this, they didn't tell me that I would be interviewing Tyler. They didn't tell me I'd be interviewing Virgil. They didn't tell me I'd be interviewing Toby Wigwe, or there was, there were just so many, Joshua Vides, Tremaine Emery. They didn't mention any of this. They just were like, you're going to help us. And I was like, I'll help you. But it was that deal with Converse that set me up to leave Nike and full-time start to pursue this thing. And then I got to deal with Vistaprint and Clark's and Saucony and etc. And I was able to turn that podcast into an IP where we had built this thing into $1 million business a year. It was legit. I had 6 employees. We were donating, in total, we donated $500,000 over that period to other entrepreneurs. And then 2023, it crashed. So it completely just because we got bucketed into DEI. And I was like, we're not doing DEI. I was like, that's not what I'm doing. But it got bucketed into these budgets, and those budgets got cut. And so we got cut. And so that was one of the hardest things. A lot of people don't know this, but when I'm in the middle of launching the Saucony, shout out to Seth, because I remember he was one of the people that posted it. I'm in the middle of that launch, and I'm laying people off. And a lot of people didn't know that. Oh man. I'm literally and that's the realities of going from hobbyist creator to full-time creator, is those are some of the swings that come with this. It's gonna have some of these moments that it's hard to predict. And that was one of the ones where I was like, I think I tried so many things to try to pivot and try to alter it, but it was just it was one of those situations you couldn't stop. And so going into 23, I was really trying to figure out what the hell am I going to do in 2024, and how I'm going to reset my foundation, because I'm not going back to an office. I was like, that's not for me. And the one thing that I've always been committed to is how can I help the person that's just a step behind me? How can I help them get to the place where I am now? And then obviously I'm looking at the person in front of me, so I can figure out how to get to where they are. And, so going into 24, I think a lot of people kind of thought like I had stuff figured out. And I was like, no, like, and a lot of people didn't realize I was like, yo, like, this is an L. Like, I took a big L. Like, this is a very big L. And I'm like trying to figure these things out. And Collab Lab was an accident. Collab Lab wasn't on purpose. It wasn't something that I had premeditated. It came from being in a moment or moments of like, why isn't my stuff working? And so I remember, y'all know Kevin Concepts?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. So Kevin, he lives in Portland. I see Kevin like every other week. We'll run into each other at some event. And, Kevin was cranking out videos, and Kevin's videos were doing like 400K, 500K, $1 million. He's getting posted on all the blogs and stuff. And I'm like, Kevin, what I'm doing wrong? I was like, I feel like I'm giving, good information, but I was like, it's not. I was like, this thing's got like 4,000 views, bro. And he was like, show, don't tell. I say, what you mean, Kev? He's like, show, don't tell. And he was just basically telling me, he was like, yo, you have this work experience, you have this background. He's like, but you got to show us what you mean by this stuff. You can't just be like, this is what it was. And I was like, okay. So I took that nugget. And then my homie Jordan Rogers, who's like deep into the marketing side, sports marketing, NIL stuff, Jordan's kind of having same situation. Like videos are going crazy every time he's in my timeline. He's in my Explore page. He's in people I follow stories that they're sharing. And so I get on a phone call with Jordan and I say, Jordan, what am I doing wrong? And he's just like, I can't tell you what you're doing wrong, but I'll tell you what I do. And so he gives me this framework and I'm like, okay. And so it was Paris Fashion Week. It was Pharrell's first Paris show, or is it the first or second show? And remind me, was the Timberland collab during his first show? No, it's the second show. His Timberland collab happened during his second showing. And I was just like, okay, I'm just going to break down what Pharrell just did. I'm like literally going to do what I talked to my homies about in my group chat, my marketing homies. And I did this video in 60 seconds and it did 250,000 views. But that wasn't the crazy part to me. The crazy part was it came with 7,000 new followers. Yeah. And I was like, what did I do? And so then I just, I didn't quite figure it out. I didn't quite get dialed. I'm not going to sit here and be like, yes. And then I was dialed after that. No, I think the next video was about like Toby's grills. I think the next video after that was like about J. Cole's like marketing around his music. And so I had figured out the marketing thing, but I didn't quite figure out like my niche yet. And I can't quite remember how I got back to the sneaker part, but basically it was more so like, I think I had a conversation with someone that wasn't directly related to this, but it happened to do with what my background was. And I'm like, well, my background is collabs and I love talking about marketing and I love talking about sneakers. And apparently the way I present stuff, people haven't heard of this way before. And so when I just started doing that intentionally, by April, I was like, okay, I found my thing. And I think by May is when I was like, I'm calling it Collab Lab. And so now that series has been great for me. We did 15 million views last year and it brought in a lot of attention. And I think the most important thing that it did for me was it brought my audience into one place. That's a combination of like CMOs and CEOs and really genuine sneaker fans. Like they're all there in the comments. And I think to me, that's hilarious. Cause I'm like, I'll watch somebody comment something and I'm like, they have no idea who that person is. And they'll be like in a whole debate or conversation about something. And I'm like, they have no idea who this person is. And that person, and then a lot of my peers. So like, I was like, if I did content about what happens after I release a controversial video, like it would be more hilarious than the video because there are like DMs that I get from like folks that work at the brands. There's like people that work at the brands and I'm like, don't comment on this. I was like, it's just going to turn into 8,000 replies. Don't comment on this. I'm like, don't do it. I was like, people are passionate. Like, don't do it. So I'm spending my time, I'm focused on that. And then like this is great because like I try to like I'm like for other creators that are trying to like build career and trying to figure out how to do the monetization side. I'm very slow when it comes to sponsor content. Like if you look at my feed, I have zero sponsor content. It's a space that I struggle to be comfortable in. It's not right or wrong. It's just something that I struggle with. And so what was more approachable for me was to do some strategy work, right? And so when I ended up partnering with Skull Candy, BG, who's their CEO, he's actually been watching me for some time. He's also worked at a couple different brands. He's also friends with some of my old managers, and he had studied me for some time before we ended up connecting. And I spent some time with him, and I really I loved his vision around Skull Candy. And I personally already had a connection with Skull Candy, kind of like Seth was saying. And then also when I found out the story about like, I remembered Skull Candy had done those collaborations with Jordan. And I was like, this makes sense to me. I was like, I can get behind something like this. And so it made sense because like I really want to be connected to everything collab based. And when he said, we want you to focus on collabs when it comes to like artists and creatives and sneakers and streetwear. And I was like, bet that means I can actually give something tangibly back to the community now, not just information, but I'm like, yo, I think, such and such brand is coming up. We should do a collab with them, right? Like that's my whole like opportunity to work with them on. And so I'm like, yo, this is great. Like I get to like be a part of this and like take what I know from the sneaker space, bring it into kind of tech, lifestyle, electronics. And they just have like so many cool things. Like not to like, I don't want to spend much time like belaboring this, but like when I put on those Crusher headphones and like the bass really came in, I was like, this is actually quite dope. Like I didn't know what to expect. I didn't have any expectations around it. So that's been really fun for me. And then now I'm working on long form. So the 60 seconds, I love that. But I also recognize that if you are super new to sneakers and you're super new to collabs, you might not catch what I'm saying in 55 seconds. Like there's a lot of historical information that it might not allow you to truly understand why I say a certain thing a certain way and why, for example, why I didn't like the Mercedes superstars today, right?
Yeah.
Which I agree with.
I mean, rightfully so. That one was tough.
It was tough. I ain't gonna lie to y'all. I saw those and I was like, I'm not
it's
gonna
just
do
such
it.
an obvious one where it's like literally, like you said, just do the livery as a shoe and it would sell way better. Like, nope, we're gonna do completely different.
Because literally, what was it? 2 episodes ago, Charlie, you were like, "Oh, I cannot wait to see what they cook up. There's so much potential there."
Yeah.
And then they do the pink, the Pepto pink, and we're like,
brutal.
Okay,
yeah.
That's great.
Because I wonder. I used to work in the brands. I know we see what's happening from a commentary standpoint. And on top of that, I'm like, it's Formula One, Mercedes, and Adidas. You have just a dumb opportunity to just flex on a lot of people. Just like I'm just sorry. Like you could just do some really just aspirational, braggadocious, aggro stuff. And you gave us a pink superstar with a logo on the back.
We'll see. It's still early, but
I knew you was gonna say that. I knew you was gonna say that.
There's time. I'm Team Adidas. I love Adidas, but if it's a whack shoe, it's a whack shoe. So I mean, at the end of the day, what can you do?
Yeah, but no, I want to do. I'm interested in long form, so I'm working on some stuff right now, and I'm really hopeful that I can bring it to the market by March. But it takes me a little time. I like to ruminate.
Do you want to make it like each episode or each video is around a singular topic, or sort of have it be a culmination of 5 or 6 different topics? What are you thinking?
Yeah, I want it to be around. I want it to have an umbrella topic, and I want subtopics that feed back into that umbrella topic. I think the other thing is that it wouldn't just be me. So I'm working through that, and then one of the things that I'm also very adamant about sharing with folks, when I feel like when you have something that's in motion, like when you have a hit, like you two have, like you have hits, like you have content that works. I'm also a big proponent of pre-selling IP. Like I will pre-sell IP before I make the IP to reduce my out-of-pocket costs, because what we do is not, it's not cheap. And it's like, yes, this is a labor of love, but like if we're building audience and you're trying to sell products through my audience, like we should get paid for this work, because this is work.
Yeah. Truly. Not to pivot again a lot, but dude, I really want to know just your collabs that you've done. I would just love, and I'm sure the audience would love too, just to hear what all goes into the creation process with this, man. Because there's so much that obviously we don't see. I feel like, there was something I was going to say about these and I don't even remember, but like this, I think I fell in love with this shoe and didn't even realize who you were yet, if that makes sense. Because I've watched.
That's the best is when you just like a sneaker because you like the damn sneaker.
Exactly. And I don't, as far as like collabs and everything goes, I'm more of a simple, like toned down guy. I don't want anything that's crazy, crazy loud. This to me, I love the colors. It's just perfect. But before I even knew this was you, like I had been, I guess, a passing fan of yours, just watching the different interviews that you've done with Tyler, XYZ. Found you on Instagram from these, which pivoted me over to listening to your podcast. So I binged like a few episodes, fell in love with the shoe. We did our sneaker of the year conversation on the podcast 2022, 23, whatever year this was. This was on my top 10 list because I was like, I love when creators get to work with brands and it just comes together. Similar like with Minted New York is doing with Saucony. I'm just like, if it's a creator found brand, I'm all here for it. I love it. So this was just like a hit for me. So just dive into it, dude.
Give us a little something that people might not know about when it comes to making a shoe too.
Totally. I mean, one of the things that's people really got to know is like when they're bringing back these models, a lot of times the brands don't have like references in house. Like they'll have to like go buy samples from eBay, and also the designers that made them aren't there anymore, and also the process for how they made them is no longer the process for how they make them. So like for example, that shoe in particular, the designer's name's John Acevedo. He had to hand make that proto and do like literal layovers over a last. So like the method that we use today where there's digitization, there's 3D modeling, there's all this stuff, he didn't have none of that. And so it was hard to like replicate that. And then because it's Saucony, it's a smaller brand, they use like subcontractors. So they use somebody to do the tooling. They use somebody different to develop the upper. They use somebody else to develop the tech within it. So all this information is completely scattered. Right. And so there's no way for them to like truly recreate it back 1-to-1 for whatever reason, But I remember seeing those. I saw that sneaker 2021. It was 2021. We were at Complex Con and I ran into Jason, who's now director of collaborations for Saucony. And Jason and I were friends and colleagues because he used to be a creative director over at Extra Butter when he worked in New York. And we had done this incredible pack with them that was space inspired. Like it was like some of the crazy stuff I ever seen. And it just really was really inspiring. And so jokingly with Jason, I was like, you need to bring these back. Like this is the model you got to bring back. and we just went our separate ways. We didn't like think anything of it. I was working my booth. He was doing his booth. And then the next year it happened. And like, Clayman was doing his thing. Like the podcast is doing well. I just done that road trip, like in my Delica, and like stuff was on the up. And we saw each other again at Complex Con, and Nate had a new CMO, and they were like, you want to do Full Circle Moment? And I was like, yeah, I want to do Full Circle Moment. And they were like, well, we're bringing back the Hurricane. And I was like, you're doing what? He's like, yeah, that shoe you showed us, we've already went through the development process. Like, if you want to do it, we can do it. And so being from Louisiana, the personal tie to it being called the Hurricane is like, bro, do y'all know how many hurricanes I had to go through? Hurricane Andrew, Hurricane Katrina, Gustav. I'm talking months without power and like, like just crazy. So anytime hurricane's a thing. And also there's a drink out there if you go into New Orleans for Super Bowl. I don't know if you want to have a hurricane because it'll give you a headache, but is what it is. Pick your poison. And so, and then also, I just thought the silhouette was dope. Like most of Saucony silhouettes, they didn't have a shape kind of like that, and I just thought it was like it felt modern for the time that we were in. It felt relevant, etc. And so, and this is before I even knew that this guy John Acevedo was a designer. And so, basically, from that process, we have this conversation with Jason and the team about like, the vision for what we want to do. And we got to share with them this concept deck, right? And usually in this deck, you're going to have two conversations, right? Jason and I'm going to really talk about what they're trying to accomplish for the year, why they want to work together, what they think we can tap into. We go through budgets, we go through marketing opportunities, where we're going to show up, etc. And then they hand over a digital file, which is a CAD in Illustrator. And I'm not a designer. I have ideas, I have vision, I love my taste, but I'm not a designer and I'm not going to masquerade like a designer. It's not what I do. But I have a really great friend who has a brand in New Orleans called Beignet Boys. And again, so you start to see like, I'm like, oh, Hurricane, connection, John's a designer. I think this would also be beneficial to John, because I'm like, my lane is clear. I'm doing content. I'm not like, I don't want anybody to mix me up, think I'm something else. And so I hit my homie John and he was like, yeah, what you need? And so he just starts doing all these colors and just goes crazy with mock-ups. And so with this, you got to have like, there's timelines. If we're going to hit, we released 2023. And so to do this, there's like timelines that you got to be aware of, or else that sneaker is not going to hit. And a lot of times people are busy, so they're not going to remind you about these timelines. And typically you have about 6 weeks, maybe a little longer, but you want to get that design through because it's going to take them another 6 weeks to 8 weeks to get you a sample back. And so we ended up I think we had like 15, and I had to whittle them down to like 4 different colorways. And so we submitted those colorways. It took another 6 to 8 weeks to get those samples back. And so a lot of times you pick a Pantone and the materials, do not take that Pantone. There was this chocolate one that I really thought was going to hit, and it came back looking brick. And so we didn't have enough time. You're like, yo, you can't do it. You got to focus on where you're at. And so it was those purple ones. And this other colorway that I was just like, let's dig in on these. And so the next sample round actually took longer. So I think it took like 3 months before we saw that next sample. And usually you want 3 sample turns. Funny story, when I worked at Yeezy on the 700, we did 1,001 samples, but that's a conversation for another story. But on this, we did 3. And we went to Boston to review it. And so like, we go into Saucony's campus and we get to look through, all, when you're picking stuff, you got all the materials there. You have material experts teams and rooms. You have developers that are there who actually communicate with the factories in China to get that done. You have some of the designers that work across functionally, that work on performance. They also work on design and lifestyle. And so in that process, typically you're trying to get the third sample to everybody in the room to try to make the final thing so that the third sample is coming back baked. Well, they were like, we don't have time because you want to release September 2023, and it's going to take this amount of time for it to get shipped. It's going to take this amount of time for it to get commercialized. Basically, what commercialization means is like, there's this sample, but they got to load it into the factory. They got to order all the materials for that. And so that just takes some more time. And so I get there and they're like, you got to approve this one. I was like, what do you mean? They're like, we can't do a third one. You got to approve this one. And so I was like, but this isn't right. This isn't right. And so I had to make manual edits just on the fly. like I didn't even get to like take it to the homies to review. I was like, I got to make these changes right now. And so one of the things that I didn't like was like the tongue label. The tongue label was just like, it was all the logos that got bunchy and the proportions were off. And they were like, well, we couldn't do another digital file because you need to approve that and we don't have time. And so that's why it doesn't have a tongue label. I was like, well, can we cut it off? And they were like, yeah, it's not stitched directly on. So I was like, well, it looks better, cleaner. So take that off. And then and then the sock liner, yeah, they were like, you could change that. And so I changed those are two things that I was able to change. And I was like, I'm good with this. I was like, this is like, I'm happy with the sneaker. And so, yeah, so that was like, you just go through like these, a lot of different nuances to bring these to life. And then, we bought, I think a lot of people don't realize like, you as a creator or creative, like anybody, like they don't give you these pairs. Like it is business at the end of the day. And so we then also signed as a wholesaler and we bought hundreds of pairs to be a wholesale partner that we then sold on our website. And so that logistics side of things, I wish we had EQL. I wish we had EQL, and I wish we had, some of these other things to manage that process, because I'd never done my own sneaker launch before. So I didn't have any expectation for like what people like, what kind of response we were going to get. And like, we got a crazy response for like a podcast to have a sneaker. I was like, what is going on? But people were into it, and, I think it was just so dope to finally get to do that, to be able to do that with Saucony. And I told people we ended up doing that. We ended up doing Clark's, and we did something with 47. And a lot of people kept asking me like, when are you going to do the next one? I was like, I'm good. Like I wanted to do the one, but now I'm really focused on what my mission is, right? And so my whole thing now is like I'm really trying to share collab marketing information so that I think if anyone's really paying attention, I'm giving them information that they should be applying to their deals. I don't care if you're doing a $1,000 sponsored deal or you're doing a multi-million-dollar deal at the top. Like that's literally why I'm giving honest information, because I'm like, if you're not Pharrell, you're not getting away with some of the stuff Pharrell does. Like if you're a creator like us, they're not thinking twice if you make those whatever mistakes or those choices. Like, and so that's why I have to remind people. I'm like, it's not that I don't not like any of them. I was like, but I'm thinking about you. Like if you did that, you ain't getting a second shot.
Giving them the blueprint, Bima's blueprint. I like it. So how many pairs then did they give you for this? Because this was your first collaboration overall, right? Okay,
that was my first collaboration independently. So like me with our name on it, that this was the very first collaboration. And so we ended up, this was like a super limited launch. We ended up ordering, if I'm not mistaken, I believe there was only a total of 600 pairs of these in the marketplace, if I'm not mistaken.
Interesting.
But and so we did this launch, but we had to buy, you had to buy those pairs. And so even the seeding, right? That's money out of our pocket, like, and I think we seeded like 50 pairs. And so the money had to be made on the when we sold them.
That's just so cool to put it into like perspective of being like, oh, this is your first shoe. I'd never thought about the numbers, I guess, of how they would create. And dude, I have like
we got lucky
friends that have these too, that rock them, that I'm every time I see them, I'm like, yeah, like shout out to Jay Will, dude. He was the first person I saw actually wear these in person. And after that, I was like, okay, yeah. It was
I appreciate y'all, man. It's to be on the other side of it, you're just like, yo, like it's, and so, that's why it's also like anytime like the other thing I think I have to share with people is like, if I comment on something, it's also because it comes from a place of like respect, like whether I like it or not, like I understand how hard it is to create something. So by no means am I saying that your efforts or any of these things are invalid. That's not what I'm saying at all. Like it is very hard to take something from ideation to a real tangible thing. I mean, you guys know, even just when we, like our content is a product, right? And every video is not like an excellent video. And there's stuff when you're trying to try out new stuff and like, it's not necessarily meant to be a hit. You're just like trying to see if like you can push something in a certain direction. And like, I get that when people are doing collabs. I think they also got to be real that it's commercial, it's a product, and people are going to spend money on it.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Char, do you want to rapid fire some of these questions that we
had?
had?
Give me the questions.
Yeah.
Honestly, you've already answered. So it was like
you've kind of flown through them.
I'm sorry.
I got one. So I don't know if you know, but I'm a huge Anthony Edwards fan. I'm born and raised in Minnesota, so I'm going to the games all the time. I don't know. It's a little connection Seth and I share because he's born and raised in Atlanta. So I grew up a big NBA fan, and my sneaker in the year last year was the AE1, respectively. I have a whole wall of them. But I have a question for you. So I think that the hype's dying down big time with it. They're releasing just a lot of GR colorways. There's never been a collab besides the McDonald's game, which was a pretty exclusive one, and some of the PEs with the 3S BB League and just very niche things. Question for you, like, it's been over a year since it's come out. If you were speaking directly to the Adidas basketball team and you're saying, what's the next direction? Do you release the AE2? Or do you slow down? You do some collabs? Do you get crazy with the colorways? Because they've kept it pretty simple. So I'm just curious your thoughts on it.
Yeah, I mean, I think when it comes to the AE1, like this is a different ball game than the way we would talk about typical collaborations, right? I think we gotta, there's tiers, right? Like I would say the AE1 probably is falling in the same category as the Travis Scott Jumpman Jacks and the Phil Jacks. They are looking to do volume, and they are looking to get those in the hands of like the as many mass market people that are interested in this as possible. This has got nothing to do with like, this is the ultra cool, if you know, that's not what this is, right? But obviously it's always dope when it does appeal to multiple audiences, like, and that's what the AE1 did. It appealed to multiple audiences. Now, the thing with Adidas that is always challenging is Adidas has been number 2 for a very long time. And when they get in position to be number 1, they always start making some interesting decisions. Always. And one of the interesting decisions is, why so many colorways all of a sudden of the AE1? It's hard to focus on. It's hard to know what's like, what's the shoe that, colorway we should get. It's hard to keep up with it because we're all inundated with so many different things. And so as that's happening, if they don't have plans just yet, if they're not ready yet to go on the 2, and I don't know, like, All-Star's coming up, right? And so, I mean, he could debut a 2 there. But I have to have a feeling that with the Harden window, we're kind of in. Like, I'm not so sure that Ant's coming right now because, like, it seems like the focus should be on Harden for All-Star, right? So if I was them, right, I think they have a couple of collaborators in their portfolio where some interesting things could happen, where if some of these worlds converged a little bit better, it might bring some really good energy to Adidas, right? And so, like, one of the things I just think Adidas could do better at right now is like really like bring in some of that power in a unified effort. Like, I don't know, like, Seth, I'm not a major fan of what I've seen from Fear of God, but if Jerry Lorenzo did his twist on AE1, that could be really interesting. If Pharrell did his twist on the AE1, that could be really interesting. Edison had a video where he said he would love to do something on the AE1. I think that'd be great for Anthony Edwards in different marketplaces, especially in China and in Asia. And then, like, if Wells Bonner did something on it, or Wells Bonner did something on the Harden, because I think that new Harden is tough. Like, I think some of those things could be really interesting to see on the AE1, and I think it would really re-energize the conversation, because if the colorways don't have a special story and you're just releasing colorways and you're releasing so many of them that we can't keep up with them, the only other way I think that we're going to pay attention to it is if we have a new story, to your point. And I think if they did some collaborations like that, or if they had, even new collaborate that we don't know and they did it with them, I think that would go over really well with folks. And then the other piece I would say would be, I do like the fact that they aren't rushing the AE2. And if it's not right, get it right. don't release it if you don't feel like it's something that is going to allow you to push beyond the excitement that you're able to create with the one. And especially, you know, depending on what their business focus and needs are. But the other thing that y'all have to think about too is like, what are the retailer relationships, right? So for AE1, like, is that exclusive to certain doors? Is that exclusive to Foot Locker? Is that for everybody? Can sneaker boutiques get it? So when you start to see the volumes change, it's likely because the business has changed, and it's not necessarily they're not trying to heat it up anymore. They're literally like, no, we're trying to do units on this thing. And they need to bring in their next thing. So they are at the place where they do need to bring in the next AE product. I'm curious to know what the moment's going to be, though.
Yeah, no, that was the only real question I was just curious to pick your brain on, because that's kind of my it's my sneaker fix recently.
What's your hope for the two? Like, what are you hoping?
I mean,
that they do.
I've talked to Seth about it, where, man, it's hard to follow up a shoe like that debut that they did. Like, that's a tough challenge. And it's a lot easier to come out with the new Harden, where a lot of the other previous Hardens were not as interesting, or the new Dawn issues where they're not as interesting. And then you come out with a model that's really well done. So I don't know. I think it's going to be, I wish they would get more interesting with the colorways. There's a lot of different materials you could do. There's a lot of different collaborators, like you talked about, that could get in on it. There's a lot of different looks that you could do. I feel like they're just kind of putting a color on the upper and then changing the back heel. And I mean, I have a couple of the new ones coming out, and it's just, they're not very, like, I really want to go buy that.
Yeah.
And I know you're with the Kool-Aid Jaws. I know you were not a huge fan of him, and saying you could maybe do some different collabs. I think it's fun. I think for his market,
I know you did, and I appreciated that. That's why I was like, I appreciate. I always ask a question, because I'm like, this is my opinion. I am curious to know your opinion. Tell me, okay, so let's talk through it. I want to know what you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just, I think like, I look at like Mellow Ball, like their colorways with Puma are super fun. They're super bold. They're very, like, a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles coming out over the next month. They're just, they're very, it's not necessarily the most serious thing, but I think I like that. And same with the Kool-Aids. And a big one was the Haribo Gummy Bear collab with Just Don, and the way that they did the packaging. I thought it was really fun. It's a basketball shoe, so you can kind of get crazy on the court. It's not something you're going to be wearing. And that's kind of what I wish they would do with the AE1, maybe even the AE2, where it's like, dive into kind of the stuff that Ant likes, like do a Atlanta pair, like do a like an actual pair, like not the pure rubies that's kind of referencing his Georgia roots, but like do like a pair that has like ATL on the tongue, and like do some stuff that like really resonates with people. So I mean, that's kind of my hope for the two, if not with the rest of the one launch. That's kind of my thoughts on it.
No, I like it. I love the what you shared about, like, because I'm also like, I don't think everything has to be serious. Like I do love when like, for example, the LaMelo's, like, Melo's not for me, but I'm gonna tell you, when I saw the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle ones, I was like, that makes so much sense. It makes so much sense. Like, it couldn't make any more sense. And it just fits him. I'm like, this is him. And I hear you on the AE1, like, I don't know why they haven't done something more specific to, Atlanta. I'm just like, I feel like Atlanta would go crazy.
I mean, you could do that. You could do a full-blown Timberwolves colorway. You could do something paying homage to his mom. You could do, like, there's so many different things that you could do an actual Olympic colorway. You could do, I mean, there's just like my favorite pair that they did was the McDonald's, because it's like a what the, there's like McDonald's brand, like, it's just fun, and it's like there's more to it than just another GR colorway. So
I can't stop thinking about what a Fear of God AE1 would look like.
Yeah, like that would be super cool.
Suede on the side with those 3 bars on the heel. I'm like, oh, that would go hard. Like,
I think it would be crazy. I think it would actually, and it'd be, I think it'd be great for Jerry to get something outside of like his day to day. Like, I think it'd be fun.
Yeah, I like it. Well, outside of that, what other What are some of the brands or individuals that you saw really excel in collaborations this past year?
Or it could even be just in the last couple of months too.
I really love what House Studios is doing. I love the approach. And they're not John's not super loud about what he does. But the work is really good. And when you look at like how he does build outs and how he creates these environments, I'm like, ooh, like crazy good. And I like those intimidations. Like I thought those intimidations were tough. I was like, why aren't more like I was like, why are people like y'all need to be excited about these? These are really good.
Yeah.
So I love what House Studios is doing. There's a brand out of Brazil that I'm currently the name is right there, but they did this project with ASICS last year, and it was kind of like Office meets Alien theme. Do y'all know what I'm talking about? Dang, I'm forgetting the name right now, but it was like I thought really excited about them, and then I really love I'm a very big energy person. And I love it when people are excited and passionate about the thing that they're doing, like it's day one. And when I saw Nigel with the truck in Nolita, and this guy's been working with Nike for over 10 years now, I was like, he's still excited about it like it was day one. And in an era where you could just take it for granted and you could just because you're going to get the check anyway and you can do whatever. I like those Jordan 4s are going to sell anyway. We all know that. They're going to sell anyway. Like they're going to sell. He doesn't have to do any of this stuff. And to me, it's just like, I think it inspires like somebody that's about to do their first one to be like, well, if Nigel's going that hard, you know, West Side Gun might be like, I got to do this with Saucony. And with J Tip's next drop, he's like, I got to do this, right? Or, even some of our guys that's been in it. Ronnie Feig, he's 15 years, I think this year, celebrating 15 years. It's like, even for him, like he dropped off a carousel last night of a bunch of Solomon and On, different collabs coming. And so I just think when folks like that do stuff, I think it elevates the level of excitement for I think a lot of their peers who are just like sometimes can be in their own world to be like, yo, I'm ready to get at it. And what I'm also hopeful of is like, I hope there's some dope women that are doing sneakers this year. Last year was it's a lot of dudes. And I was like,
point, yeah.
like where because we had a Laylee May, and when Laylee May was in her bag, like she was cooking. So I'm like, what's up?
The only one that really got highlighted was Nina. Like that's
it's just Nina's. I'm like, and because a lot of the other ones, like, don't get me wrong, they're dope, but they weren't sneakers. They were more fashion world, And that's like that imaginary line that everybody forgets about.
And Wells Bonner.
And Wells, yes, she crossed over, right?
Yeah.
That Samba hit. The Croc ones, I think people just wanted to get out of Samba, like wanted to see something else. And I think you like the 72. What's the name of that?
The SL72, the Bad Bunny one.
Is that no. The wait, is it? That is the Bad Bunny. That's not Wells. That's the Bad Bunny one. Yep, you're right. That's the Bad Bunny ones.
These bad boys.
Yep, that's the Bad Bunny ones. Yep.
I don't even think of it as a Bad Bunny shoe. That's the thing. I'm just like,
I don't know what a Bad Bunny shoe is. I'm being honest with y'all. He's got so many different things.
And now he's doing the ballerinas and songs for the mute. They're doing the ballerina too. And I'm like, interesting model. I'm kind of curious. The song for the mute one, like those look pretty sick, all suede. I'll try them. Maybe. I'm not gonna wear ballerina shoes. I don't know.
No, I mean, but that's one of those ones where I was like, I think this is very much more like people that really are into like fashion and fits and stuff like that. I was like, that feels more like that crowd that does. I was like, I mean, I'm not saying like a sneaker crowd's not going to wear ballerina. Just like, I don't know if that is the target audience.
Yeah. There's really no telling. What brands are doing it the best? Like New Balance, ASICS, Adidas. To me, New Balance has just been, look they've had a hell of a 4 years.
There are two brands that are performing above and beyond, and New Balance is number one, and ASICS is number two. If you're paying attention to what they're doing globally, those two brands. Oh, I mean, like just the New Balance lineup, just the lineup alone,
crazy.
You got Bronson, you got Joe Fresh just announced his 5 years. Teddy's there, Ronnie's there, Amine, Action Bronson. They got young cats coming in that are they're trying different stuff with. They're hitting on the fashion side. I don't really think they've hit with CDG yet. That's just my personal opinion.
Yeah, because they did that. They previewed that all leather 573 whatever the other day, and I'm like, eh.
And
they did like the 860, I think.
Yeah,
it's okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
There's an audience.
There's an audience for it, but I think they're doing really good projects, man. And ASICS, they keep introducing new design. That's what I love, is they're introducing new people to my world that I had never ever heard of. That's that brand that I'm trying to remember from Brazil. They introduced me to them, and I'm like, yeah, they're doing great projects. Like, people aren't, for whatever reason, they're like not paying enough attention, but like they're doing really good. Those two, just like, I'm like, a lot of people need to be paying attention to what they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the general public's just too focused on the Gel 1130. That's like it, because you can get them everywhere. They're $110 or whatever.
Yeah.
Every time I go, I mean, I live right down the street from a mall, and every time I go in there, there's always one or two colorways of those, and then like a few pairs of Kayano 14s, like, and they fly off the shelves, because I talk to all the guys that work at the JD Sports, and they're like, dude, we can't even keep them in stock. Like, it's crazy. Crazy.
Like, ASICS is having a crazy run.
Yeah, and they're just hot in Atlanta right now too. Like, everywhere I go in Atlanta.
My homies in the South tell me the same thing in New Orleans. My homie's got a shop called Foster, and he's like, yeah, people are literally coming in the door for ASICS.
It's nuts. And they're in resale shops too, dude. Oh my God. I went in one in the mall the other day, and they like Kayano 14, just all black pair for $300. And I'm like, what are you doing? This is crazy.
Jeez,
I can get these for retail online on
right
ASIC's website. Like, what are you doing?
I'm not paying that.
But so what are you wearing? I feel like we don't see what you wear all the time.
Yeah, man, I wear, so one of, somebody, I think it bothers people sometimes that I wear a uniform, and they're like, why aren't you wearing?
I love it.
Why you don't wear anything different?
I wear this green hat all the damn time, because I'm like, it looks good on camera, and it makes you more recognizable when people are like, if you were at the gym, I would know you were at the gym. I'd be like, that's Bimma. Like, oh snap, he's at the grocery store. Oh, dude, that's Beima. Like, it's so cool.
It works when I want it to work, and when I don't want it to work, it works. So what I mean by that, obviously, is like the Yachty situation. If I didn't want to be recognized, I probably would have been fine if I actually wore different things. But because I wore this, walking around ComplexCon after that was exhausting, because like every single soul was like, man, what happened with the blah, blah, blah? Okay. Man, like, it was like every other second.
One of those, so
well, you were fine though, because I actually wanted to I wanted to talk to you, because I'd seen you
later in
the
night.
Let's talk.
It was
in
like
person.
I was like, I just gotta go say hi.
Like, that was totally fine. But you know what I mean? It's just like, I was like, oh, I was like, as long as I'm here, I'm going to get this question all day. But for me, man, like, I spent so much time working in this industry, and like buying every brand we could think of, and like trying to shop for this and shop for that. And I was like, I wonder, like, if I wasn't trying to like wear certain things, like, could I still cut through? Right? Like, could I still, because I'm a big person of like, if it's not right on paper, you ain't gonna make this pig look pretty. You know what I'm saying? And so if you can't deliver it without all of the accoutrements, it ain't real. And so a part of it was that. Another part of it was I didn't want to be thinking about this every day. And then another part was like my FU to like corporate, because like everybody in corporate, like, to be like an executive, it was like all black, tailored, and like white shoes. And I was like, that is not a fit. I was like, I mean, if that's your thing, fine. But like, I don't want to have to wear this to advance. Like, that just doesn't make sense. And then the purple, is a nod back home. So I went to LSU, and then purple is just a big color in Louisiana in general. And so it's a nod back to the creatives there where I came from. Always want to represent home. And then the color brown was my my anti wearing all black. And then I just wear LA apparel. LA apparel be making, I love the weight of the blanks. I love the consistency of when I order it is usually the same color. Cause sometimes you order blanks and it's different shades. You know what I mean? the quality control is not there. And so I just I got 7 to 7. Got 7 shirts, 7 crew necks, 7 pants. And every once in a while, and so I'll add pieces if I'm going for certain moments or there's certain stuff that I want. So and it's rare that someone will make something in my palette anyway. So that's also it's why it's so much easier for me to just wear the same thing. But have y'all been paying attention to what Umbro's been doing? Umbro and Slam Jam, just they had this collection and they released these field pants, these chocolate field pants. Had to get them. Had to get them. And then we're in Oregon too, so we have access to Settlemeyers is here, and so I have a custom Settlemeyers Letterman in my palette, and then there's a sportswear company here called DN that they're the only company that still makes chain stitch or I think it's chain stitch cardigans, right, from I don't know, 1919. They literally make them in a neighborhood in their warehouse, and you can go see the whole process. It's crazy. So I'll get stuff like that. But yeah, that's typically what I'm wearing. I try to keep it local and try to keep it low key. And then if
what's on foot,
I will tell brands. Oh man, I'm in slides right now, but let me see. I could pull something from the other room.
The top
I'll show you my slide.
Go-tos.
Hold on, let me show you my slide. Shout out to Salehi.
Hey, there you
go. Let me see. This is a fun one because when you don't prep, you have to be what's the first thing you can pull from the other room? And I'm I don't know what's in there. Okay, let's go see. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna pull something.
I love it.
Let's see.
Seth, do you have any guesses?
Oh man, see, I don't know. When he was doing a run for his shoes, it was a lot of Saucony or wearing the Converse or the Clarks. So I don't know. I feel like it's New Balance. I could see it. Oh, that
was not what I was expecting.
Now I'm curious.
I pulled these, and this
is a
good conversation.
Was not expecting that.
This is I want to know what y'all think about these. I know the internet is so torn. But I don't even post anything anymore. I don't post anything I get in the mail anymore.
See, I go back and forth on it. There's pairs that I buy, and I just buy them for me because I'm I'm not. Y'all don't need to know about these. My hard copy Adidas BW Armies. I'm I bought these for me.
I bought these for me.
These.
I bought the Nigels. I didn't get seated the Nigels. I bought them.
Yeah,
I bought those Nigels.
Yeah. It's y'all ain't gotta know.
So these came in the mail. And I know there's a lot of different thoughts.
Yeah.
About these. But yeah, I hadn't even I hadn't worn them. I hadn't taken them out much. But yeah, these came in. And I was okay.
I like it. I mean, my first impression when I first saw them teased online, obviously I just thought Chinatown Market, as I'm sure a lot of people did. But it's cool to see the official crossover between the brands. I think the only thing that I wasn't a fan of was the different material on each swoosh. I was okay, I mean, I could have done without that, but it's not a GR shoe that people are going to actually get. That's a very special moment, and you were involved in a very special project. So it's it can be a little different, but
and it's also why I didn't, one, I was man, I really wish there were some different things that they had done last year. But when I did my collab of the year video, I didn't put Mama Year in there because I was I don't want to be a double agent. I don't think it's right for you to be a part of a marketing campaign or part of a launch and then be this is this is, you know, I was like, you can't do that. That's not fair. You can't do that. But yeah, you know, I think I prefer the embroidered one over this one. And I agree with you. I'd love to see different colors, but I also think because of what we all know and what we shared about the Chinatown market, I think it would be dope if, one, there was some storytelling around it, and two, it'd be dope if there was like a 3-way collab. I kind of think it'd be crazy if there was an Amamier Chinatown market.
That would
Nike
be cool.
Like, anything's possible. Just do it. You know? Like, just do it.
Okay. I think that would be pretty crazy. But no, I was like, when I saw these, when these came in, and I was like, oh, this is happening. I was like, yeah, internet's about to be crazy. And that's when I was like, I think that, like, sometimes, like, I'm like, give me a break, you know, because I was like, you know, I know what my audience expects from me. And they're like, you got to tell the truth. Doesn't matter. And, like, you know, I'm like, damn, I don't want to do this one today. But I do it. And then I'm like, thank goodness I'm on break this week.
Yeah. That's so true. Well, you know, since you didn't talk about really any of the AMA collabs from the past year, which ones did any of them really stand out?
Fours. And I'm gonna say something that I think a lot of people, I don't know what's going on with people, but I'm gonna tell you, those 95s, I think a lot of people need to go back on what they said.
Yeah.
I've worn these 95s for like 3 weeks straight this year. That is a really good sneaker. Like, it's a good looking sneaker. The materials are good. The details are good. I'm like, these did not deserve to get cooked the way they got cooked.
Because people were like just pissed straight out the gate without even really seeing them. They saw like leaked photos and they were like, nah, this ain't it. And I'm like, but why?
I was like, you didn't even see, like, why?
Materials look good. Like,
I was like, that one, I was like, same. That's why I was surprised when I keep wearing them. I'm like, why do I keep wearing these?
Yeah. That's crazy.
Because I'm not a 90, like, I know everybody's excited about Big Bubble and all. I'm like, cool. Yeah. Cool. 95s just never did it for me. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But, like, people love them. But I wear those, and just Jordan 4s, because I love Jordan 4s. Like, I hit up a bunch of my homies that work in different retail, and I was like, the white cements, I need them. I need them.
That I am very, 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 very excited for.
I am so excited about those. Oh, here he goes. Look at this.
We were talking about him earlier.
Is that this year, or is that 16 or
this year? Yeah.
This year. What do you think about the shape?
I mean, the shape looks good. It's just,
That's not a 4 guy.
I'm big on quality. I can't pull off 4s, dude. I'm a 5'8" white kid. It's like, it just doesn't. It doesn't really work for me. But
hey, man, Jerry Seinfeld pulled off all of them Jordans.
So I don't know. Maybe one day. I mean, like, Charlie hooked me up with the 4RMs for Christmas, and I wore those for the first time like a week or so ago, and that was the first time I've wore any sort of 4. And I was like, this is a little weird. I got to get used to it. Wear like the right pants that kind of, you know, go over them. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's just, I'm not a huge fan of like the leather quality of a lot of Jordan brand releases. And this just feels like that real thick plasticky leather. And I'm like, it's okay.
So you saying they did the polyurethane is what you're telling me.
Like,
what you're telling me.
It's kind of what we expect at this point, unless it's otherwise expressed at the end of the day. Like, but I don't know. I think it's a cool shoe. People are going to love it. I'm here for that. You know? I ain't gonna.
No, those are mine. I ain't gonna lie to you, Seth. That's my favorite sneaker.
I don't blame you. Like, it's not super crazy. It's not loud. It's subtle. This is exactly what I would wear.
But these are not those.
They're not it for me. But like, I love most of my sneakers. Predominantly, they're all just like white or silver.
Yeah.
Like, that's just what I wear. So like this. I love it.
All right, so you're gonna wear those this summer. I'm coming to ATL.
Dude, maybe I will.
When we go, we're gonna go have dinner. We're gonna have some drinks. Y'all gonna take me around, and you gotta wear them for us.
That the white pants. I guess I gotta get a pair now. Oh man. But with every Jordan brand release or all the sneakers that have sort of been teased this year, are there any that are sort of standing out to you that you're really excited to go for?
I really do want those. I want those brick by bricks, and I know just because of like the story and coming up, I'm like, I do want those undefeated fours.
Yeah,
I am not engaging in the Jordan 185 situation. That is
really,
it's not for me to get involved in. There's certain stuff when it's like when the Jordan audience is so large and you do 10,000 pairs, unless they show up at the door, sorry. Like I'm not asking favors, like, because the favors I would ask, they're already inundated. I don't want to, I just feel like that's insulting. My situation. You want me to do what? No, like we got stores are going to get like stick sizes. You know what I mean? Like that's what we say in retail, right? You get sticks. It almost doesn't even make sense to tell people you got them, because like the annoyance of the phone calls and like people showing up and being pissed at you is not worth it. And so, but from a Jordan side, the white cements, the undefeated fours, I am trying to decide where.
What are your thoughts on the metallic fives, the new rendition of them?
Oh, I like them. I like them. I like the metallic. What's the word that I'm looking for?
Sort of the
piping. I like them, man. I've always been a fan of fives, like those and the fire red fives. Favorites. I also want to see them like explore a 5 low again. I just think in this marketplace, I think people would be into it. And then there's a couple 17s that I have seen. I cannot speak on them, but there's a couple 17 collabs that are ridiculous.
I figured, especially with seeing the Infinite Archives pair, I was like, okay, so they're gearing up for something. So I'm to see, because I think that's just a really cool model.
From them, that's what I'm excited about, because we've been inundated from 1s to 12s, 13s, not as much 13s, not as much 12s even, but like 1s, 11s, like cool. We ain't really got the rest of it because people haven't really been interested. And now it seems like people are actually interested in another Jordan that isn't from 1 to 14, but they actually want to see these 17s. And there's some dope collabs coming. I'm like, this is fun. I'm on board.
Yeah. And when you
what about y'all?
Like you're like, yo.
Yeah, you see it in person, you're like, oh, you're not wearing 1s? You're not wearing 3s?
Yeah. Oh, it's so cool.
It's cool.
From like Jordan Brand specifically, I love the UNC ones, so I'm just really curious to see what they do with the reimagined. I'm like, don't mess it up too much, just because I want it to be the real one and like just look good. That one I'm really excited for. That's the only.
Do you like the 85 shape? Like, so one of the things I'm curious about is, so there's an 85 shape. There's reimagined, and then there's whatever the regular one is now. Do y'all have a preference?
Charlie's huge on the 85s.
Yeah, so I'm a big.
Okay.
I got my OG.
I see you. I see you.
I'm mixed on it. So I'm in Minnesota, so we wearing shoes for half the year, they get destroyed in the winter.
Right.
With that being said, the new stiff leather on the 85 retros is great for the winter, and I wear them. That's the daily shoe. The new lows I really like, the new highs, all of that. I think that the new breads or the bands, they've kind of seen a lot of. I'm in the like deep in the 85 space with the people that build them from the ground up and restore them, and I don't think that they nailed the shape, which is kind of a bummer. I mean, literally saying that with a fully restored from the ground up, like 85 Chicago. I don't think that they nailed it, which is a bummer. I do. I'm kind of a fan of all the cheesy marketing that they're doing.
I love it. I love it. It's better than the sneaker.
Yeah, it's when you go on the Nike app and they have shoes X'd out. Like,
bro, they got this guy walking around Nike's campus giving citations to people. No, I'm like, great. He's in comments going back to people. This is hilarious.
It's great. It's great. I was just showing my wife the original 85 commercial when they were banned from the NBA, and it's just like it's kind of like revitalizing that whole story. And I was a big Air movie fan, and so I'm very excited for it. I'm very interested to see. There's no way they don't do a sneakers drop. Like, there's no way. Like, all this, and then they just dump it to a few retailers. Like, I just don't think that there's like 10,000 pairs. Like, all the marketing money that they're putting behind it seems very surprising.
Well, and I saw the other day too, where someone was like, "Oh, there's not 10,000, there's 23,000." So I'm like, that would make sense.
But that number is negligible. Like, that's not even enough.
Yeah.
Like, if they did 500,000 pairs, it's like,
if you're going to do 10,000 pairs of this sneaker, the only way that they should have done this release was to not tell anyone.
Shock drop, random.
If you're going to do it this way, then you should actually release hundreds of thousands of pairs, because that's the amount of people that actually want this particular model. But if you wanted to release it, and if you wanted to release 10,000 and you wanted to celebrate the 40th year, and you actually took time to work on the shape, it's not, to Charlie's point, I get it, it's not 100% there. The better way to me is to allow somebody to give a reason to walk into a sneaker shop, realize that they're there, buy them, tell your friends, they pull up, realize that they're there, and then it's not, and then you can do maybe like the after that. But I just feel like it's kind of like, man, I feel like so many people are like, I don't have a shot.
Dude, if they would have done that, like at Wish Atlanta, just randomly restock them up one day, ATATF would have been blowing up. Everyone would have been like, I'm sick today. I'm back tomorrow. I gotta go.
It would have been like, this would have been, to me, it would have been like the pigeon dunk drop worldwide. Every news outlet would have had, we have riots in Atlanta, we have riots in Minnesota, we got riots in New York, like everywhere, London, like, because it's so unexpected.
Yeah.
And it's to Charlie's point, there's a whole community that cares about like the historic factual rebuild of this model.
100%. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like, I'm watching, like, don't get me wrong, like, I'm with y'all. Like, I think what they're doing from a marketing standpoint is great, but like, I'm not about to, like, those sneakers are as good as gone.
Yeah,
fair enough.
True.
Unless they do a sneakers drop where you can enter a raffle, which is also just like, how many, that's probably going to be like, I don't know.
Good luck.
I don't even want to know how many people are going to try to enter that raffle.
Can't hit on Travis Scott's. You ain't going to hit on the, like.
You not, yeah. Yeah, you're not hitting on it.
Well, I think Seth's in the same boat. We don't want to take up too much of your time, but I do want to flip it on you. Do you have any questions for us? We've been kind of throwing.
Oh yeah, way. I got questions for y'all. I think on the on the content side, when it comes to sharing videos, doing podcasts, doing reviews, I'd love to know from y'all. What are you excited to try this year, and like, what are you hopeful to do this year? Like, do you want to go to more like events? Do you want to bring more people together? Are you going back to Complex Con? Like, I'd be curious to know, like, from that standpoint, and how y'all contribute to the space. Like, what are you excited about?
Go for it, Seth.
As far as like reviews go, I get bored really easily, so I like to try different stuff from different brands. So I'm just really eager and excited to see what all the brands what they've been cooking up over this past year that they're going to finally release. So that's the main thing. But as far as like a community perspective, I just really want to get out there and meet as many people as possible and just, build relationships with people, whether it's at brands or just individuals that really mess with my content. I would love to get. One thing I've been talking about with a few creators in Atlanta over the past year is like creating that community of creators in the city where we all just hang out once every 2 weeks, go on like trips together and just brainstorming sessions where we can try and help each other out, crack the code. Like if someone's struggling, be like, all you have to do, like, here's how you can tweak it, and you'll see so much more success at the end of the day. So really just building that community of creators has always been something I've wanted to do, but I just haven't had the time to really put into it. So this year, that's a goal of mine to really just put more focus on. But yeah, that's it for me, I guess.
That's dope. That's dope. Charlie?
It's a loaded question. My goals and aspirations for the year.
Sorry.
I think last year my big goal was getting closer to the brands for me. Just personally, I started the game reselling and restoring pairs, and now I've gone super deep into all the history of shoes and learning about designers and learning. Like I got to meet Steven Smith. Did you work with him at all?
I did. When I put out that intimidation video, I received a DM from Steven.
Yeah. So I met
which
him,
I knew, which I expected.
Exactly. So I met him and just learning about more of the history, because I grew up not necessarily in the sneaker community. I mean, there's just not that in Minnesota, and just never had the money to buy a $150 pair of shoes. So it was like
none of us have the money to do it.
There you go. I've been following it, but I've never like gone into it. I was always rocking the $40 Reeboks for an entire year until they fall apart, and then you go with your mom to go to the. So that's what it was. And so then I got to college, and it was flipping shoes to be able to afford the collection. So I guess for this year, definitely events. ComplexCon was a lot of fun. I was actually out there for a golf tournament with my dad, and stayed an extra day. And I was like, I got to do this. And from that, there's been some really cool connections that have come from that. And I think, just events and meeting people, Seth. I mean, Seth and I do this remote every week, and it's always fun to link up and chat ideas and do that more. So I think Seth and I are taking sponsor money to get to more things and do more in-person things is kind of the goal.
Y'all gave me an idea. We should do a sneaker creators meetup or a happy hour at ComplexCon or in Atlanta or some other event. I'm totally down. But if there's somewhere where folks are already going,
ComplexCon would be perfect.
It could be dope to do, like, because all of the hotels have lobby bars. Like, I mean, we ain't gotta like, just pull up. Like, it ain't gotta be nothing official, but like just have like a designated time and like, get to meet and see some of the homies that maybe you saw last year, maybe you've seen the other stuff, and maybe you communicate with online, but hadn't really got to kick it in person. Like, I want to go to that.
that was the best part about going to ComplexCon for the first time this year was literally, oh, I see you. I'm going up to meet you. Like going up to meet this customizer. I saw Brendan. I was like, oh, Seth was just talking to you last week. Like talking to a bunch of people that putting faces to the internet, and like, especially in Minnesota, there's just not Atlanta. You're like in a hub for the sneaker community. So there's just not that much out here. So I'm all in on that idea. I love that.
We should do that. I
want to bring this together, man. Everyone's so dope. I love them.
Yeah. It's like, I think it'd be so dope. And then I don't know, maybe even found like a somebody had like a studio set up out there, and could be dope to do like a round table and just like, I don't know, every couple minutes somebody else is just rotating.
Exactly. I love that. I love that a lot.
I got 3 of these microphones. So I'll bring all 3 and we can do that.
Yeah. It would be the longest. That'd be hilarious if you created like the longest sneaker podcast.
3 hour, 4 hour a Joe Rogan length podcast of just everybody. Do it once.
I think it could be really cool.
I'm actually down. We should, dead serious, we should circle back on this.
100%.
Okay.
Definitely down. Well, I guess that's pretty much it. Bimma, dude, thank you so much for hopping on and just chatting with us, dude. It's been an absolute pleasure, and obviously we'll have you back. So if you'll have us.
Oh man, I'm definitely coming back. I appreciate y'all, reaching out, and even being interested in having me come jump on. And you're helping me with a goal of mine this year, which is being more social with my other peers that are collaborators. Creators, because sometimes I just get into like the tunnel and don't look up. And so I was super excited when you reached out, and I was like, yeah, I'm definitely gonna do this. So appreciate y'all for allowing me to pull up.
Love it, dude.
Thank you.
All right. Peace.